We are live. Hello, Facebook, Facebook, Facebook. Hello, good evening. Happy Friday to you all. Thank you for joining us tonight for Friday Night Live, Friday Night Vibe, where we're always being real. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have our very special guest. I had the pleasure of sitting down with these three men a few weeks back and had a great conversation, and we just decided that it was time for us to speak up and speak
Yep.
out and bring our stories to the world and to men just like us who've gone through struggles in life and who have had hardships and situations and circumstances to arise in life, and just to encourage men that you can make it. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to welcome our guest first, Mr. Marcus Clyburn.
Thank you guys for having me.
Also, Mr. Jamil Massey.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you guys for having me as well. I look forward to it. We had this on the calendar for a couple of weeks, so we're
Oh
ready to
yeah,
get at it.
oh yeah. Last but not least, Mr. Hollywood.
You got to
Dequan
give me a
Small.
drum roll or something.
So on this live tonight, for anybody who doesn't know any of us personally or one of us personally, um, there's some anointing on this live tonight. We actually have Marcus and Jamil, who are both authors, um, and I'm going to let them expound a little bit more on their books, and also Juan, who is a artist, who's a music artist, CEO, philanthropist, all of the above. So, Marcus, if you can just give us a little bit of background on what you've done and the projects that you've brought forth.
Well, I've written three books. The first book is entitled "Worship Is Not a Song," and it's based upon the dream that God gave me, which is how I got the title, and which is why I was inspired to write that book. The second book that I wrote is "Can't Spell Good Without God," and God was just pouring out some things to me during the pandemic. The pandemic was really a weird time for everybody. Nothing like this ever, I never experienced anything like that before. You know, I can imagine it started to feel like the Great Depression. We weren't alive when that happened, but I can imagine it starting to feel, a little bit like that. And the last book that I wrote is Academic Probation, and I just talk about my academic struggles and my bad choices and how my bad choices caused me to get off track. And I was able to write about what helped me get on track, and that's what inspired me to write that book, Academic Probation.
Yes, sir. So you all and where tell them where they can find the books.
You can go on my website, Marcus T. Clyburn, author.com, or you can go on Amazon and purchase the book.
All right. So go to his website or Amazon, and we will actually put the names of the books um, further down in the broadcast. And Mr. Jamil Massey, tell us about your project and where we can find your book.
Yes, thank you again for having me, James. My name, as he said, is Jamil Massey, and my book is called High School No Fool. High School No Fool. And it's an autobiography. And similar to Marcus, I just went ahead and shared my struggles, shared my life story, where I came from, the things that I learned, and some of the things I had to unlearn, some of the opposition that I had to learn to work through, and just my my bouts at being hard headed, for lack of a better words, and some of the consequences that I faced because of just bad decisions. And so I also talk about me having a slow start to life, and also associating with the right people, and being able to get my foot in the door in corporate America, not starting out with a manager type job or even a full time employee, but talk about getting my foot in the door and having to work my way up from the bottom and being coachable, that type of thing, and eventually getting the facility manager position. And so I wanted to put it together where it was practical life lessons, and share my story as well. So the book is called High School No Fool, and it is on my website, which is also highschoolnofool.com, HIGHSCHOOLNOFOOL. So there's no tricky spelling. It's just the way it sounds, highschoolnofool.com. And it's also on Amazon. So thank you again for having me.
No problem. No problem. And Mr. Hollywood, Quan, tell us about what you got going on right now.
For me, it's very simple. I'm a straightforward type of guy. I have the management firm running really well right now with a list of my clients, 2 speakers and also 2 singers at the age of 14. We're ripping and running all around right now, spreading this positive energy, partnering with an outreach program titled Serve Unity Outreach, as well as Trinity Wellness with Mrs. Kelly Watts, and then shout out Yolanda Baker also. We're partnering with those 2 organizations to really get out here and bring resources to the community and bring awareness to mental health. But at the same time, we bring family fun and food. That's where I am currently. That's what we're working on now. We're building the brands collectively and just really spreading the true message of hope, man, and bringing a lot of positivity and light back into these communities, because that's what it's about, for sure.
Yes, sir. Definitely. Definitely. And last but not least, I guess I'll go ahead and share my little stuff.
Yeah, you got to talk about yours.
So I am author of, I'm sorry, y'all. Got it. Okay, I'm the author of It Had to Happen, But It Couldn't Kill Me, which is also an autobiography, just going through my life from probably infant up until now. Story's still being written. So I'm just humbled and thankful that God allowed me to pen, different situations in my life so that I can help someone else and let them know that if I made it out, that they can make it out as well. So just happy, humbled, excited about what God is doing in all of our lives, about where God has taken all of us. I think we're waiting on Quan to get one thing straight, and then we can go into this. So Facebook, while we're getting everything situated, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Talk to us, comment, let us know how we're doing. Let's see here. I'm trying to get to the live now so I can see your comments and concerns. Okay, I think we are good now.
There we go. All right. Yeah, something to blur went a little too hard.
All right, we're good now. So we're going to start tonight. This live is geared towards men. I know we have a lot of ladies that watch the live. When we put up the post, I asked the ladies to get this flyer to every man that they know, because we want to talk to men tonight. Because for so long, men have been out of place. Men have been operating out of order. I've had a vision of the way that men are out of order, and it's almost like a Coke machine. So you know how you go, you walk up to the Coke machine, and the Coke machine, it's a Coke machine. You know it's a Coke machine because it says Coke or Coca-Cola or Pepsi or whatever the machine is, even if it's a snack machine. But you don't know it's out of order until you try to put something in it and get something out of it. Then it comes back and tells you, I'm not working. And so for a long time, men have been out of order, out of place. We have taken, in most times, the back seat, and women have taken the forefront. but it's time for us as men to come back to the place where God called us. And when we go into it, I just want to read a scripture real quick. Genesis 3, starting at verse 9. It says, God called to the man, where are you? He said, I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid. God said, who told you you were naked? Did you eat from that tree that I told you not to eat from?
That's right.
So when God asked Adam, where are you? He said that he was naked and he was afraid and he was naked. So he hid. And it just seems as though now in 2022, we're still operating in that spirit that we're hiding, not only from God, but we're hiding from our wives, we're hiding from our children, we're hiding from our communities. And it's almost like we're walking around with a mask on and nobody knows who we really are. So I want somebody to go ahead and speak to that, and we're going to go from there.
Yeah, you bring up a great point when you use the illustration about the drink machine, and particularly when you talk about trying to get something out. So when you normally in a drink machine or a vending machine, you put money in, you want a beverage out, right? But when you talk to human beings and sometimes guys who are out of order, I'll use myself for example. I'm not gonna sit up here and try to portray like I'm perfect just because I wrote a book, because I ain't. Right. Sorry to disappoint y'all if y'all think I am, because I ain't. Intentionally using improper grammar to let you know I'm not correct. But no, just when I'm off base, what comes out of me is out of order. So I'll just start with that. I know the times that when I've spent time in the Word, prayer, hanging around guys like what we did a couple weeks ago, people who can lift me up and also hold me accountable. Not always people who are just saying, "Hey, you did great." Sometimes it's the guys who are like, "Look, man, you might want to rethink how you do that because it's coming across this way, even though you might not even realize it."
Right.
That's what I've noticed the most, when the thing that's coming out of me sometimes is out of order, and it's embarrassing sometimes because, like Adam, he hid, right? Because it's embarrassing. You don't want to be the guy who looks messed up, jacked up, all your business out in the street, and it seems like the rest of the world got their lives together. But like you said earlier, it's time for us to stop playing the game, because life is serious and there's other lives at stake. So I'm glad we're talking about this.
Yes, sir. Anybody else?
Yes, I was just going to say this is a great topic. It can be a very controversial topic, but it's a topic that needs to be, had, because, like you said, there's a lot of men that's not in place, and I think what contributes to that is a lot of men don't know their identity, walking around and not knowing who they are. And I think
Right.
if men learn who they are and what God created them to be, I think the world would be in a much better place. But we live in a society where, to be truth be told, that the men are being emasculated. We're told that a man leading is traditional, is old school, but that's what God created us to be. He created us to be the leader. Not that doesn't mean that we are dictators, but we
Right.
are to lead. And I think if, as men, if we learn our identity and learn what God created us to be, I think we will be in a better place.
Oh yeah. And another thing, stop pointing the finger.
Most
Right.
definitely.
Not only just that the women, because Adam came back to God. He said, "The woman that you gave me, she gave it to me, and I did eat, but I ate it because she gave it to me." So a lot of times as men, we get in the place where, the woman that you gave me, or my boss, or my children, or the bill collectors, instead of holding ourselves accountable and saying, I'm the leader, I'm the man, I'm supposed to be leading from the front.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of men, they try to lead, but we're leading from behind. You can't lead anybody from behind. That makes you a follower, not a leader.
Mm.
If we're going to lead as men, first we have to be on the front line. We're supposed to be on the front line, covering our wives, covering our children, covering our communities. But a lot of times we're standing back, in the background. Well, let me see what they're going to do. But as men, we have to learn to come out to the forefront, come and be the leaders that God called us to be, because he put us here first. He put man here first. Juan, what you got to add?
There's too much noise going on. Sending text messages. Sorry. Okay. I agree with all of what all three of you guys said. Like Marcus just said, we're in a society where we're emasculated, and James and I talk about this pretty frequently. And what we was talking about in some of these previous weeks was, I think women get it like misconstrued when they say, "What you mean, let a man lead?" And like when they come off with that energy, because it's like, I'm not telling you, we're not saying we control you. That's not what this is. And a lot of times, I feel like people are operating out of order when it comes to that, because like Marcus just said, we're born to lead. And I think a lot of what society has done is taught women that you independent and you don't need a man and you this and you that, you know what I mean? And you can do it on your own, and all the songs that's out now that push and motivate women to be themselves and so independent. It's like, it's one of those things where as men, we're supposed to be the leader, bottom line. And I just feel like if the world get back to operating in that space, I'm not saying we would solve a lot of the problems, but what I'm saying is that's who God called us to be, period. And I feel like if we get back into that mode, then a lot of the men in the homes will be able to make a lot of decisions based on them leading. And at the same time, did we lose James? Okay. Sorry, guys, we're having technical difficulties.
I just want to add a quick point. I think that was a powerful point that Quan just made. I hear a lot of women. We talk about this topic a lot at our church. Shout out to Pastor Louis Lothar, God's Word Only Ministries. I wanted to do that, but we talk about this a lot. And one thing that a lot of women say is, Christian women, I can't speak for women that's not in the church. They look for a man to lead. But a woman is not going to follow a man that doesn't look like Christ. And I think if a man is put in place and he looks like Jesus, he looks like Christ, he looks like something that a woman should submit to. A lot of women said it'll be easier to let that man lead. But I think a lot of men are out of position. And, I know a lot of women, they're not going to wait. If you're not looking like Christ, then it's something has to be done. So they're going to, step up to the plate. So I think that was a great point that Quan made. But also a lot of women want a man to lead, but a lot of men aren't looking like Christ. A lot of men are not in position,
or even know how to lead. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it runs so deep to where, and this is not me judging any man, but a lot of times we didn't even have the tools. A lot of times our fathers weren't in our lives, or if they were, you didn't see a great example. So it's like, I'm not making excuses for anybody, but I'm saying like a lot of times we didn't even have the tools. And I seen a post that said, forgive your parents because they was growing too.
Right.
Changed my entire perspective on not only my parents, but just people that I knew growing up and their parents. Because a lot of us and a lot of our parents, you got to think about where our dads were and the age they were when they got, our moms pregnant. Like, just kind of look at like, what were you doing at 17? You know what I mean? It's like, could you have handled the responsibility of having a child and leading a family? And no, you still a baby yourself. Technically, you didn't even know what car insurance is yet. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm sure Jamil, like, he got excited. So did James. I think they could piggyback off that.
The only thing that I was going to add was Even with our discussion at the restaurant a couple weeks ago, we found that all four of us have one thing in common, and is that we were all raised by single mothers. So
Right.
with Marcus, Jamil, and I, Quan doesn't have any biological children yet. But with Jamil, Marcus, and I, because we were raised by single mothers, when we became fathers, we were trying to do something or learn something or be something that we'd never seen. So that's a struggle in itself to be a father and you've never seen your father or even like a positive role model of a father.
Right.
Until whatever, until whatever age, that someone did come into your mom's life or whatever the case may be. But at some point, it's like there's still a disconnect there because you're trying to figure out, like Marcus said, your identity, because fathers are there to show you who you are,
right,
and mold you. So when you don't have someone there to mold you, then the mold is already broken from the beginning.
That's true. And back to Marcus's point, is like, how can a man lead when he never even been shown that? You know what I mean? A lot of times that's just the case here. But and this is not to make an excuse, because a lot of times you need to take the initiative to want to be better. And when you see a man in that improvement phase of his life and he's trying to lead and trying to get the tools, or just trying to go in the right direction.
Right.
And I think as women, they should just be patient with the man as he's growing through that process. And then at that point, hopefully, she can learn to follow and respect his authority. But if you don't give a woman nothing to respect or be led by, they ain't going to do it. Like Marcus said, like it's too much independence out here. And that's just the reality. I mean, they're not going to wait.
Yeah. And I have to, because I was raised by, I have so much respect for my mom, especially as I've gotten older now and started the journey of writing the book. It had me to ask family questions that we didn't ask growing up. So I grew up in a family where, we were talking about this, where we hardly ever spoke. I mean, or when we did speak, it was take the trash out. Did you do your homework? Go cut the grass. There's more like direct commands, which there are, don't get it twisted. I tell my kids some of that same stuff too. But so there's a time and a place for that. But that regular ongoing conversation, dialogue, what's happening with your day, what's going on, we didn't have as much of that. So what I found from my mom, and even though she had a very slow start to life, she had my brother when she was 15 years old. She had me when she was 20 years old. And so she had a very slow start to life, and she didn't get married to even after I did when I was an adult. But she didn't make excuses. She went back and she's got 2 college degrees, and she was the first Black female manager at her company. So I bring that up to say women were suppressed for so long. Now they've finally gotten a chance to be empowered. So shout out to them for getting a chance to walk through the doors that are open for them. So for me, and as guys, I feel like we got some catching up to do to take our rightful place, right? Because they're evolving at a speed that's faster than ours. I think the main businesses that are starting in 2022 are single Black females, right? Are the fastest growing business sector in 2022. So I say all that to say, once I got married and I started a family, when I was 16 and 17, thinking about, it's going to be awesome when I have 5 kids and I'm married, I had no idea what that responsibility even looked like. It just seemed, when I was watching the Cosby Show, everybody was happy all the time. The kids weren't that bad, right? But it's different. Interpersonal communication is different from getting up in a pulpit or having a speech or talking on the job. It's a completely different type of communication. So going back to learning that skill, I stepped into the area of leader, even though I wasn't as ready as what I thought I was. I stepped into the position, if you will, as husband, which is a leader of our family. I had no idea what that meant besides I'm married, right? What does that mean? I didn't know. I stepped into the position of father within that same year, 23 years old. Guess what? You're a father now. What does that mean? I don't know. Figure it out, because you've made these choices. So now you have this responsibility.
Right.
So going back to the scripture, when God talked to Adam, where are you? It was more of a question. God knew where Adam was. It was more for Adam to stop and think about, where the heck am I?
Right. Right.
So anyway, with the 5 kids I have and all the learning that I've been doing, still haven't arrived yet. We talk about talking to our sons and trying to find that common ground. Those of us who have kids. Me, I was able to talk to some sons, but it was a struggle. Let me tell you, it was a struggle getting there. It's like, you ever watch National Geographic when like a cow is born or a horse is born, and as soon as the baby horse comes out, it's like stumbling all over the place. It's a horse. Normally horses run, right? No, it was stumbling all over the place. So I was that dad stumbling all over the place. I was a horse in the making, but it was awkward is what I'm trying to get at. But it's not an excuse. We do have a different starting point. What we didn't have is not an excuse for what we can't be. However, there is a learning process for sure. We just got to do the work that it takes to get there.
Powerful.
Yes. And I just want to expound a little bit on.
I knew you was going to do that.
On what Jamil was talking about.
Yes, sir.
Because I have, anybody that's on here that doesn't know, I have twin sons, 14 years old. And we were laughing at the table because there is a period where it just gets weird. And it's kind of like, I don't know. So it's kind of like, hey, Micah, how are you? I'm good, Dad. How was your day? It was good. And then we're kind of just staring at each other like, okay, what's next?
Right.
Do you ask me something? Do I ask you something? So awkwardly, everybody just kind of walks in 2 different directions. And then then you have to figure out, like we talked about at the table, you have to figure out a common ground or something to break that barrier. And I was thinking about it after we left the restaurant, and that's what the enemy likes. He doesn't want that bond, that father-son bond. Because just like a snake, if you kill the head, the body's going to eventually die anyway.
Right.
And the kids boys especially, are going to eventually be that head. So the devil doesn't want us to come together as father and son and, have, laugh and have real life conversations. Again, going back to being raised by single mothers, it's kind of like those conversations were hard to have with a mother, puberty and all of the changes that men go through in life. So it's kind of hard to have that conversation. And now it's still there, even though we're adults and have sons. It's kind of like we go back to that 15, 16, that mindset of, okay, I'm back there again. Couldn't have a conversation with mom. Now I'm the father and it's still awkward. So we just have to be able to break that cycle, break that curse, break that wall down to say, hey, like Jamil, like we said at the table, do something. Let's go to the movies. Let's do something to just break that wall. Even if we go to the movies and, the first 2-3 times we're just silent and, we're just watching a movie, or we're going bowling and you bowl and I bowl, and then eventually something's going to break. So just to encourage any men or, women who have brothers or, your baby daddy or whoever it is that is having that disconnect, to just tell them to keep going, keep having that uncomfortable conversation until that conversation becomes comfortable.
Yeah, I have to jump in. I feel like, if we're gonna do this to help people, I feel like the more practical we are, as you guys have already started to give some examples, the more we can do that, the simpler it is. Again, I go back to writing the book, and other times, not just with the book, when I talk about when we grew up, our family didn't talk. And I remember saying that so many times, and one day it hit me. when I said, we don't talk. Well, I'm part of we. So it eventually hit me like, how come I'm not picking up the phone? I'm sitting there waiting on everybody to blow my line up. How come I'm not picking up? I'm part of the problem. Mm-hmm. And again, that's another thing. Now, this is something that I'm learning. I have not mastered, but guys, we have to look at ourselves or have somebody else help us point out our blind spots. A mentor, a coach, a best friend who's gonna not always pat us on the back, but also help point out our blind spots. When I realized I'm part of the problem, I said, okay, I'll call this one guy, my boss, my mentor. He's been retired for 5, 6, 7 years. I still call him at least every other week just to check in. But I'm not calling my mom that often. That's something wrong with that. Now, I can't speak to everybody's family situation. I know everybody's family situation is not ideal, it's different circumstances, but I didn't really have any problem or any beef with my mom. We just didn't talk that much. So it took me saying, what can I do, even if it's a scheduled, like I have these corporate meetings every 2 weeks or every month. I said, I need to take this corporate principle and insert it into my personal life. If I'm calling my former boss once every 2 weeks, I'm calling my mom at least once every 2 weeks. Yes. And let me tell you, that first call, you talk about awkward. She was like, almost like, what you calling me for? It wasn't that bad, but it was close, Marcus. It was close to, is everything okay? Like, and I told her, I was like, Ma, listen, the reason why I'm calling you is, and I got emotional because I wanted that connection. I wanted that back and forth conversation. I just didn't know how to do it because it was so awkward. But shoot, I'm 40 something years old now. It's time for me to learn how to do awkward. Right. So I said, Ma, I love you. And I just want to talk to you more. And by the time I hung up that phone, I was just like a baby crying, but it started the process. And now 3 or 4 years later, we're able to, she's calling me. If I'm not calling her within 2 weeks, she's calling me. And that communication that was so hard for so long is a lot easier. And when we used to get on the phone, we used to talk for 2, 3, 5 minutes max. Now it could go 15, 20 minutes. So I just want to say that as encouragement to everybody who's listening, that just about like anything else, it can start out awkward, start out difficult, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. It may not ever get to be perfect.
Right.
And I know on social media, we flash all the time this perfect lifestyle that we know ain't perfect, but perfect is not always the goal. Progress is the goal.
Oh yeah. Yes, sir.
Powerful.
So anybody got anything else? So let's talk about men and egos.
We gotta go to something else.
Talk about, well, since you spoke up, I want to talk about men and their egos.
about what? What do you want to know? I don't think I need to be speaking on this.
Just how men are with our egos and our machoism, and just start off with, how we were all raised. We had somebody in our life, some man in our life that said, men don't cry. You're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to be hard. You're not supposed to show vulnerability. So speak on that for
me. Well, I got an interesting story, a quick story. So recently, I was actually, it's interesting that you asked me that, because if we're talking about egos, I'm just going to show you the definition of what humbling yourself and killing the ego looks like. If you know me, then you know I have a very loose tongue, and I will say the first thing comes to mind always. If you know me, you know that. And I speak my mind, and most of the time I say exactly what I want to say. Recently, I was going through a little situation here with a job change. So I was at an event. Just to give you a backstory, I was at an event. On the event, I was enjoying myself. A couple of my clients were there. They're speaking, they're singing. Event is sold out, and we're just having a great time. I kept getting phone calls from my work. It's like, but it's my manager. She's continuously calling. And I'm like, okay, something must be going on. Let me step out a second and take the call. I step out, take the call, and I'm like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? And she said, hey, I just wanted to let you know there's no need for you to log in. You've been removed from assignment, and I'm going to send you an email. Removed from assignment. And I thought, okay, what in the world? I said, did something go wrong? Did anything happen? We'll talk about it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm at an event right now. She said, oh, and you're at an event. And I'm like, yes, I'm at an event. I can't talk to you about it right now, but maybe I can call you later on. She said, okay, I'll follow up with you on Monday. So Monday comes, we have a conversation. She tells me all about why the decision was made. It was some corporate decisions above my head, budget cuts, things like that. I get it. All right. So then about a few days later, I just started to try to figure out what I was going to do. Was I going to seek other opportunities within the company internally, or should I, externally find some opportunities? So I'm like, okay, well, what do I think? Okay, so I reached out to one of my mentors in the company, who's a VP, and I asked her. I said, listen, I told her the situation, what was going on. I was removed from the assignment, which was the contract that we had, and she said, well, I think you should start interviewing for some things internally. I said, okay. So she said, I'm going to send you a few links and you're going to fill them out, you get your applications done and then attach my name to it. And then, you can use me as a reference, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, perfect. Well, I do that. And right away, because of my resume was as impressive as it is, I was able to get responses almost instantly. And everybody from different departments was showing love and reaching out. Well, I ain't gonna say showing love. I'm gonna just say reaching out and was like, oh my God, your resume is impressive. We love to talk to you. So I'm doing all of this. Finally, I start getting offered in some of these different departments. But guess who had to sign off on me transferring to another side of the company? The same lady that contacted me and removed me from assignment. Wow. Now, at this point, I'm pissed off. And the ego and the pride. And I'm like, I don't want to talk to her. And I'm just setting it off, like going off. And a friend of mine, a female friend of mine, about a week prior to that, she told me, she said, listen, you got to start being mindful of what you say. What you say goes a long way with people. Be mindful. And I was like, what? I heard what you said. In my mind, even when she said that, I said, girl, please shut your mouth. Like, I say what I want to say. That's the ego once again running my mouth and whatever. So the time comes, I'm getting an offer. I had to reach back out to my mentor in the company. She says to me, she said, listen, write a message to your ex-manager. Thank her for the opportunity that you had under her umbrella. And then she stopped. She said, you know what? I'm going to let you figure it out. Like, what? She said, you know what to do. I had to put my head down and I had to reach out to this woman. Hi, such and such. Won't call her name. Oh, I just wanted to tell you, thank you so much. I learned so much up under your umbrella. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I appreciated every single day being coached by you and blah, 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 blah. I went into a whole spiel about how much I loved the opportunity to work under her umbrella. And that woman responded to me and said, oh, she said, wow, I had no idea. She said, thank you so much. And I will definitely take a look at the new roles that you're interested in. And yes, I will definitely sign off on that. So she signed off on me being able to transfer. But the point of this story is I set my ego and my pride aside to reach out to somebody whom I really didn't care to talk to at all. But we as men, we're taught to be firm, to be tough, and don't get pushed over, don't get stepped on, don't get walked on. That's what they teach us so long in our lives. You know what I mean? But what I didn't realize was when God closed that door, He had a plan for me to walk through another one.
Right.
Because weeks later, had I let my pride and ego get in the way, I may have not been where I ended up landing weeks later. Because weeks later, I've been promoted to a role 3 levels above the role that I was currently at, with a big pay increase. So I say all that to say, don't let the pride and ego get the best of you, because sometimes God is using that to catapult you and elevate you to the next level. That's my take.
Yes, sir.
That was a great testimony.
Thank you, sir.
When you're talking about pride and ego, I can't speak for all men. I can just speak for me. Sometimes that pride and ego can be very dangerous, especially as a man.
Right.
I'm reminded, in the Bible, it talks about pride comes before fall.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing that we talk about at our church is Christ gave us the blueprint on how not to be proud, but to be humble. And you had a man that was perfect without sin. People, they spit on him, they lied on him. They, he had the power to stop them from, crucifying him. But at the end of the day, he had to put his pride to the side for a better cause.
Yes.
And as a Christian, we have to follow. It can be hard. It is hard, but we have to follow that blueprint, because even when Christ was baptized and he came up from the water, one thing that I noticed in that scripture, it said that God said that this is my son in whom I am well pleased. He didn't use the word proud. And if you think of the word proud, it makes me think of Satan, because that is what caused him to get kicked out of heaven. His ego, he saw himself as a perfect being. The Bible talks about he was very beautiful. He can sing. He was gorgeous to look at, and all the angels was praising him. And he became proud and boastful. How foolish is that, you to take pride in yourself, but there was somebody higher than you that created you. You wouldn't be the person you are if this person didn't create you. Right. And pride, came inside his heart, and it caused him to get kicked out of heaven. And as a man, as people in general, but as a man, we have to be very careful of letting our ego get in the way, especially now being a father and a husband. There are some things that I have to put my ego to the side for the better cause of my family. At the end of the day, God is going to hold me accountable for what goes on in my household, because I'm the leader. And if pride and ego gets in the way, then I'm in big trouble. So I have to make sure I evaluate myself daily and make sure that I'm not, letting my ego dictate or motivate me to move out of my flesh, because the Bible says that, it's impossible to please God through the flesh. So as a man, it can be very tough. You mean to tell me that somebody slapped me, like Will Smith slapped Chris Rock? You mean to tell me that I can't slap him back? He got slapped in front of millions of people across the world. But Chris Rock, I grew a lot of respect for him, because he stood his place. He didn't let his pride get in the way. And I think that was a true illustration of how we should put our pride and ego to the side.
Absolutely. Powerful, bro. Powerful.
Especially when, again, going back to raising children, because our kids are going to do more of what they see us do than what we've told them to do or not do.
Most definitely.
Because that's the eye gate. So if they see you, fighting, or like you said, always combative, or somebody slaps you. Now, I'm not going to say sometimes, you're not going to slap me all the time. Just being real. But it's important for us to show our kids that, to be in character and not let people pull you out of character, and to also, like I said, they're gonna do more of what they see us do. me and Quan again talk about this all the time. People have habits or whatever, the case may be. Anything, not even just a habit, just anything. I've always, no matter what's going on with me, I always try to remain the same in front of my sons, even if I'm, dying on the inside. I want them to know that you can remain humble, you can stay in character. You don't have to let people pull you out of character, even if you're feeling like all hell is breaking loose on the inside. If you have to, my grandma used to always say, if you have to, go in the bathroom, get a bucket, cry, and wipe your eyes, come back out smiling. Never let the devil see you sweat, and never let him see you cry. But just being an example in front of our kids, letting them know that, hey, you can be strong, but at the same time, it's okay to be vulnerable, especially, with like me and Jamil, with these teenage sons, and Jamil with college age son. It's okay. It's okay to be strong and show that machoism, but it's also okay to cry. It's okay for you to be vulnerable. It's okay for you to express yourself, because that's one thing in the Black community with men, um, with sons, men with sons. Like I said, is don't cry, be strong. But what's wrong with crying? Jesus wept. So if Jesus cried, why can't I? And we just have to get to a place where, we break down that barrier of, don't you cry, suck it up, be tough. I can be tough. In this season, I may be able to be tough. But in the next season, I may need to be vulnerable just a little bit, because you don't know what this season is for me. And it's important, to allow our kids to express themselves. How do you feel? What do you feel about this? I'm not saying let them run all over you and you're not the parent anymore, but to allow your children to express, what do you feel about this? And then come to a common ground. Okay, let's talk about it. But it's so, and I remember, not just uncles or, people in the neighborhood, what are you doing? Why are you crying? Why are you this? And why are you that? Well, I'm crying because I'm hurt, or I'm crying because I'm sad, or I'm crying because, I'm emotional right now. So now you're telling me that I can't have emotion.
Or I'm crying because I'm 7 years old.
Right. Right. And then the thing too with that generational curse.
Right.
So somebody told them not to cry.
Right.
And then somebody told them not to cry. And now it's trickling down. But, I have 14-year-old sons, and that curse stops here.
And to your point, like, it's really important, like you said, to show both sides of the spectrum, because you just said, even when you are broken, you try to make sure you portray positive,
strength.
You know what I mean, and strength. You display that for them to see. So what that shows them is, when life goes wrong, Daddy was always strong. We always seen Daddy just press through, man. He always took it to the chin, but he kept pressing on. But then you show them when you're broken.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, it's okay to be broken.
Right.
Because that's what they're going to run into later. You don't want them to have this perceived, image of life is perfect all the time.
Right.
So it's okay to show them that vulnerable side of you. They need to see it occasionally. I'm not saying be in front of them all the time, Right. I'm not saying be like that, but I'm just saying, like, occasionally it's okay to say, Dad, you all right? You good? And they like, they ask you that, and you, not really, son, but hey, man, a lot going on right now, but hey, I'm gonna keep it pushing. That's what we got to do. When life knocks you down, make lemonade. The fight continues. Yes, sir. You know what I mean?
No matter what, every day.
Right.
I don't care who you are.
Right.
I don't care how much money you have. I don't care what size house you have. If you're driving a Benz, every day, all of us are fighting a battle.
Mm-hmm.
Your battle's not my battle. My battle's not yours. But every day we're fighting a battle.
That's true.
And this, my sons and I came up with this when I was going through my divorce, and a lot of things were going on that just wasn't right. Fighting. And when I say fighting, sometimes fighting with these and sometimes fighting with these. But I wanted them to realize that no matter what happened, that I was always fighting for them. So that when things went wrong, when all hell broke loose, when, like I said, when we were sometimes in the street fighting like fools with these, I wanted my sons to know I'm always fighting for you. So anytime they would get discouraged, anytime I would get discouraged, anything happened where, you know, things didn't go the way we wanted to, I would encourage them, they would encourage me. And that was our logo, or that was our slogan: the fight continues. And that encouraged me if they told me, or the other way, or vice versa, that we're going to keep fighting. And we're going to fight, and we're going to fight, and we're going to keep fighting until the victory's won.
Amen. Wow.
Powerful. So let me jump in on fight for a minute, because I want to try to, when we talk about all four of us on this call, we were kind of molded out of, although our families were loving, it still were broken families, right? The father figure was not there, and the ones that were there may not have been ideal, winning Father of the Year awards. Okay, so the old school model of being tough, suck it up, quit crying, they bragged about fights. And strength a lot of times was external strength. How much can you lift? How much can you bench press? How can you slam dunk? Can you, run, score a touchdown? It was always a physical strength, which there is a time and a place for that. I'm not dismissing any of that, because my son plays college basketball and I want him to do well. So I'm not dismissing any of that. However, we didn't learn the internal strength that we started to touch on a little bit earlier. So let's talk about fight for a second, and fighting for the right things, and fighting for that relationship, and fighting against some of the own negative paradigms that we have.
Right.
Fighting against some of our own bad habits, bad tendencies, fighting against our own overeating or drinking or just vegging out and chilling. And I'll give you an example. You were talking about crying earlier, and my oldest son, he's 21. He's in college now. And a couple of years ago, when he was going to college, right, he was about to go off to college, and it was his last weekend at the house. And in my mind, I knew my son's about to go to college. This is an important deal, and I want to send them off in the right way, not with some big party or some. I want, as a dad, trying to break the stereotype and trying to be a better model than what I had. I want to have a great conversation with my son to let him know how proud I am of him, and that he can make it, and to deposit some good stuff into him. However, I only had a couple good years of finally breaking down that communication and talking to him, like what we were talking about earlier. So I wasn't stumbling as much, but I wasn't sprinting either. I was walking. Okay. But it was so important to me to leave an important mark on my son. I said, I don't know how it's going to look, but I'm about to talk to my son and just pour out my heart. And I didn't do it in a smooth, elegant, on the stage, professional. It didn't come out like that. But I was not going to let, just because it's not polished and refined, I wasn't going to let that be an excuse for it not to come out. So I said, even if I have to do it ugly, even if I have to do it wrong or uncomfortable, I will make a positive deposit on him. So I just rambled for like an hour. I just went on every good and positive thing that I could think of. It was already coming out clumsy, so might as well keep going. But in my mind, I'm going back to fight again. I was trying to fight against the not having a relationship. And if there wasn't any other time in his life, he would have remembered that one conversation, at least. Now, I was going to make sure I was going to do more. But that was one time I wanted to positively mark him. So I want to ask, the question, what are you fighting for? kind of like to your point, James, you wanted to show your kids, this is what I'm fighting for. Some of us we need to start fighting for the right reasons, not just fighting just to knock some dude out or to brag about, yo, man, this dude said this and I told him off, and come on, man, what are we fighting for? Because it's not fist fights anymore. They're pulling out guns now. Fights over quick.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
So anyway, I want to encourage all of us who came from not great ideal models of interpersonal communication, not having those tables at the dinner table. How was your day today? And, what's going on with school? And, you still talking to this girl or what, just joking back, just small stuff that we take for granted and we think is just going to automatically happen when you get older. It doesn't unless you create it. I want to encourage you, even if it's awkward, feels uncomfortable, do it. And don't let that moment pass by, because you can't get that time back, man. But I'll pass it back to you, James.
Awesome.
Just
Awesome.
one thing.
Awesome.
I want to go to Marcus. And I think this is important for not even young men, not just young men, rather, middle-aged men, old men, even in this day and time, boys who are not even teenagers yet, because this is something that affects all of us, even women. With the pandemic, not even before the pandemic, struggles, life not going the way that you thought it would go. The blueprint that you set out, or the blueprint that you wrote out years ago, the some of us men, the wife, the children, the white picket fence, the dog, the big house, didn't go that way. You lost the job, whatever the case, whatever your it is. Sometimes we feel that it's better for us not to be here anymore. So that suicidal thought is planted in our brains. Marcus, share your story with us concerning that.
Okay. And that's very powerful because Jamil, when you're talking about fight, you can't go to fight without being equipped. If you think of a soldier, when they're going to battle, you can't go to war without your gun. You can't go to war without your armor. And as men, we have to have those deposits, or somebody, a male figure, depositing in us or giving us tools so that when we are faced with opposition, we'll know how to fight and we'll know what to fight, because sometimes we're fighting, the wrong battle.
Right.
And I said that to say this, when I was in high school, I grew up in a single mother household. There was a lot of things, that I went through that I didn't share with my mom, because I know, one, I didn't want to, stress her out, because, she's trying to hold down the household where, it's me and my two sisters, and she's trying to, make sure she provide for us. I don't want to stress her out. Two, although I knew my mom loved me, we, like you said, we didn't sit down at the, lunch table and talk, about, how our day went. When we ate, everybody went in their separate rooms, so I didn't feel like I had anybody to talk to the things that I was going through. And I remember being in high school on a particular day. I forgot what I was, upset about or depressed about, but it was a lot of things that, that was happening to me at that time. A lot of issues that I was dealing with, and over the years, enough is enough. You get tired, feeling that way. So I made, a decision that I was going to take my life. So nobody was home at this time. So I remember going to the bathroom, and I remember grabbing a white drop cord, and I remember locking the door behind me. And I just remember, making a decision that this was going to be my last day here. I was tired of feeling the pain. I was tired of, feeling like I didn't matter. So I thought that dying was, was better than to live. So I made the decision, to step on the edge of the tub, and I tied the drop cord around the shower rod, one end to the shower rod, and I tied the other end around my neck. And I went back and forth for a couple minutes, contemplating if I was going to, do it. And after contemplating, I then decided to step off the edge of the tub. And when I stepped off the edge, of the tub, um, you know, it my body, was falling to the ground, but my neck was getting pulled up, and a pain went through my body that I never felt. I never experienced it. And when I made that decision, I quickly, found out that was the wrong decision. That's something I didn't want to do. And I'm trying to get my feet on the edge of the tub to stop, from what's happening, but I was unsuccessful. So I don't know how long I was up there, but I know I was up there for a long time. And I began to, black out. And I remember thinking in my mind, like, oh my gosh, I'm actually, getting ready to, die. And I remember my body started, shaking. I'm not sure why, but I just felt like I was getting ready to, die. And it's like, as soon as I was getting ready to take my last breath, the shower rod fell down from where it was at. And I remember falling to the ground and looking up, and I'm like, I felt something at that moment. I felt God say that He loves me. And I think, a lot of times we go through things and we don't feel like people love. We just need to hear that from somebody saying that you matter, that you love them, that somebody loves them. And I just thank God that He didn't allow that to be my last day. Um, I, Ever since that day, I knew that God was real. Um, have I been doing things perfectly? No, but at that very day, I realized that God had a purpose for my life. And I just want to encourage somebody who's listening or who may be watching that, a lot of people have these thoughts, and they don't know who to talk to. They don't know who to turn to. People might look at them like they're crazy. Like you guys said, we're taught not to show no weakness, especially young men. We're told, to show no weakness. And I never shared that story with anybody until I wrote the book. And when I wrote the book, my family was like, "Oh my gosh, we didn't know that you were going through this." And like you said, James, breaking the cycle. So I wanted to make sure that when I had children, that I deposit into them and instill in them that I love them, talking to them, spending time with them, but not only that, giving them tools that they can use whenever they feel like they're fighting something. I know every morning, my oldest son Isaiah, he's 7. He goes to the school that I work at. So every morning we ride together in the car, and every day I give him a word of the day. Like this week, we talked about faith, and I was just talking to him about faith. Son, what does faith means to you? And now when I ask him, he says faith means believing in something although you can't see it. And I believe that, pouring those gems inside of him now will teach him how to fight. Um, he knows Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When somebody tell you you can't do something, son, what are you supposed to tell them? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I believe that's where the cycle breaks. We give them tools, we give them the word of God to fight with, because when the enemy comes, we're able to speak those things. And we're gonna get down, we're gonna get sad, but when you give them tools to fight with, the word of God brings freedom, it gives liberty. And when you speak those things has to change. It really does. And I just thank God that He allowed me, He spared my life. I really thank God He spared me. I'm here talking, with you guys today, and I have 3 awesome boys. I'm getting ready. Me and my wife are expecting another boy in October. So God is just
Hey.
he's blessed me, man. He's blessed me.
Yes, sir. And I just thought that it was so fitting to share that um, with the society that we're living in, with so many pressures and peer pressures. And not even you, when you think about peer pressure, when I think about peer pressure, I think about school, high school, middle school. But as adults, peer pressure has spilled over into adult life with
Yeah.
social media, the social media platforms that we have, the um, competitions, and you know, looking at this person's page and that person's page, and I'm not their shape, or I don't look like them, I'm not their color. The whole colorism thing that's going around. And the thing about it is, God made all of us as
Mhm.
individuals, and we're not going to look like the next person. We're not supposed to look like the next person, because if I look like you and you look like me, then where's my identity? As you said earlier, Marcus, um, we have to be who God made us. Just be you. You can't be anybody else, because those people, everybody else is already taken. So you can't be anybody but who God called you to be. But in this day and time, we're so um, confused, and we get to the point where we're looking, well, we take our eyes off God. That's one thing that that has happened in the world. We've taken our eyes off God, and we put our focus on man, and we're looking to the man and woman to the right and to the left of us and comparing. Do you have on red bottoms? I got on some 1999 shoes from wherever, and the person next to me has on red bottoms. But what you don't understand, you don't know what the person beside you had to do to get those red bottoms, and sometimes it ain't legal, and sometimes, just being honest, it can be nasty. Whatever they had to do. So just be you, and just be who God called you to be. Um, the pressures of life, and I always, tell my sons, never look down on anybody, but at the same time, be who you are. And if people don't like you for who you are, then those are not your people. The mill's coming back in. Those are not your people. Go ahead, Paul.
And to piggyback, first off, Marcus, man, you left me speechless. You shared that story with us out at dinner when we were all together, but just hearing it a second time just bring things into reality. Like it's so powerful. Like just knowing that you were hanging up there about to take your last breath, and then the shower rod falls. What comes to mind for me is when Jesus was on the cross with, I forget who he was on there with, and I remember in the movie it showed where he was saying, I'm a sinful man, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a horrible man, I've been doing this, and and the Lord pretty much told him on spotlight, listen, you believe, and just kind of hit him with the quick question, and the man said yes, and that quick he was saved last minute. And isn't it ironic that that same story can equate to what you went through in your life?
Wow. I never looked at it that way.
You know what I mean? It's like you were at the last, just, oh, woe is me, blah, 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 blah. And just this whole, why am I here? Just that whole in a funk, basically. And then God let you get all the way to the point of almost taking the last breath, and then boom, shower rod fall and saved you. And obviously he kept you here for a reason. And it's clear to me that you got work to do. We all got work to do, because my story is not that extinct. Like, it's not that extravagant of what I went through, but I can say, like, I have been on the brink of, like, just a deep dark depression, and just trying to figure out, like, what am I doing? Like, why am I even on this planet? Like, I've been stuck in modes and phases where I was like that. I don't think I had the courage to follow through with a suicide attempt, but I have felt like if I was just dead, it'd probably be better. But never having the courage to go attempt it, So I say to you, like, that just goes to show you the power in not feeling like we have a safe haven or a safe place to confide in. You were in a home full of people who you knew loved you, but you didn't even feel like you had a safe place to confide in nobody to express what you really feel. Why? Because you've been taught, be tough, be strong, and all of these different things. And it's like, and so we mask our pain. And especially us as men. I'm not even gonna say us as just as black men, but I'm gonna just say us as men in general. We walk around masking our true pain, and it's so tough to be able to express your true emotion because it's shown as a sign of weakness. Like Jamil said, but when you see somebody knock somebody's head off, that's glorified. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that boy ain't no joke. Boy, he laid that son gun slam out. Yeah, I'm from the country, so you got to forgive my jargon here. Corporate Q is turned off. But the point is, it's like you hear your uncles and all them cats talk, boy, that son gun laid that joke out, boy. You hear that praise and that glorification, like you hear all of that and that glorifying, and you just like, oh my God. So now you trying to live up to the facade of whatever it is that you hearing them speak on, and not, you may be tough too, but inside, what you don't realize from a young age when you're looking at them, they're men too, and everybody is people, and they have had hardships, and they've had times where they probably felt like they wanted to quit. And how we know that? Because look at the cloth that we come from. Many of them, I credit them because I know for a fact a lot of people before us probably worked jobs that paid little or nothing, but yet still had to take care of us and provide for us. And of course, this is me talking about the real ones here. Deadbeats, that's another conversation. We'll save that for part 2 of the live. But the point is, it's like all these things that you're saying about the way that they teach us, or even some don't even teach us. It's just what, like James says, what you see. It's what you see growing up. You see them saying this stuff and acting a certain way. So of course, you're not going to show no vulnerability. So the fact that we got to work on in a society where it's like this, we got to really work on giving us as men a safe space. And I would encourage any men out there watching, like if you got groups of friends like us, like this group of 4 men right here, we were able to express some vulnerable things with one another. You know what I mean? And really share some true stuff, some true things that we went through. And I feel like if we do more of that as a brotherhood, like just men in general out there, like find little groups of men and get off the radar from your family for a minute, away from your wife, away from your kids, and talk with the fellas and really burn off a lot of that steam, because you carrying it around is only going to come out and affect your family and your livelihood later. Period. So we got to get more comfortable with being vulnerable and sharing these things, which is why I wrote a song like You're Enough. I wanted people to really see the vulnerable side of me. So I wanted to create something that ends this stigma against men being vulnerable and speaking out how they truly feel. We got to put an end to that stigma. And it's okay to not be okay. As my good friend James say, just be you. And it's okay to do that. Or like my good friend Jamil say, just keep showing up as you, period. And if you okay with that, you really gotta be okay with that, is what I'm saying. You should be okay with expressing who you really are. Bottom line.
Right. That's what it's about. Y'all, it's getting a little late. I think this was a great discussion.
I think so too. Yeah.
I feel like we got about 5 more episodes to go. I'm not.
This was awesome. We're definitely gonna have a part 2, and from the sound of it, we got some ground to break. It might be a part 3 going, but we're definitely gonna be back.
Right.
Got a couple dates that are. It might actually be beginning of June, but we will definitely be back for part 2. So we just want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Thank all of our guests, Marcus, Jamil, and Quan, for joining me tonight just for this discussion, because when I was doing the flyer, I was, kind of saying, okay, what do I want to say? I was trying to come up with like a catchy type topic or title, and that's just what came to mind, that something happens when men speak, because we've been silent for so long. You have few men that speak out and tell their stories and encourage one another, but the Bible says that iron sharp as iron.
Mm-hmm.
And we're so separated as men behind ego that we can't come together as men and say, you know, like Jamil said, I'm going to hold you accountable. You hold me accountable. Everybody just wants to be in their own little secret compartment, in their own little bubble. And I stay in my bubble, you stay in your bubble, and you deal with your stuff, and I'll deal with mine. But, you know, that's not the way that God intended for it to be. You're my brother, and
Right.
I should be able to come to you, you know, like the Bible says, even if I have a fault with you. I can't even go to the altar and pray if I have a fault with one of you,
Right.
because God doesn't hear that. The Bible says that I'm supposed to get up off that altar and come to you
Right.
and work that fault out or that
Mhm.
fault out, and then go back and present my gift. Because if I'm trying to pray and get through to God and I can't get along with man or woman, my brother or sister, God doesn't hear that.
Right.
And again, just like that Coke machine at the beginning, we're operating out of order when you try to do that. So, I mean, when we went out to eat, I mean, it just encouraged me and let me know, you know, a lot of times I grew up, you know, in the church all my life. Churches that I've gone to, you know, not all of them, the whole church hurt thing. I had to come to realize that it wasn't the church that hurt me, but there were people in the church that offended or hurt, and I couldn't hold everybody responsible for that. There was a time where I held the church responsible, but you know, I had to realize that it was you, it was you, it was you. And
Right.
when I get that opportunity, or if I've gotten that opportunity to speak with those people, you know, this is what happened. This is how I feel. This is what happened, you know, what I experienced. And one thing that we have to do, again, I don't even know why I'm going here, but one thing that we have to do as men and women and men and women of God, we have to realize that we can't hurt people and then tell them how to heal too.
Oh, okay.
You have to allow me to heal, because that's my process.
Right.
A lot of times I didn't hurt you, but you didn't feel it because you were the one that hurt me.
Right.
Right.
I felt it, so you don't hit me and you feel it.
Right.
You actually feel good. The offender actually feels good sometimes.
Right. So if you hurt me, you don't get to hurt me and then tell me this is how you heal. No. You just you did your part. You did what you did. I did what I did. We'll meet in the middle and we'll figure it out, and we'll go from there. You know, and everybody that you disconnect from, you do not have to deal with anymore. Okay, I don't know why I'm going there. We're gonna end this live.
I'm gonna say right now, you get ready to get me started. See, my preacher mode get ready to come out. I'm getting ready. I'm gonna say one more thing, and I'm gonna let you go.
But we are, man. I really enjoyed y'all tonight, just like we did at the restaurant. I mean, I enjoy the camaraderie. I enjoy the brotherhood, and it's only gonna get better. And I truly believe, and it's my prayer that, you know, as men see this brotherhood, that 4 will turn into 8, and it'll keep doubling and keep doubling and keep doubling until there's an overflow, and somebody sees that there are men that are coming together as one and linking arm in arm and showing strength, but at the same time able to be vulnerable in front of each other so that we can all get through to the place that we all need to be.
Right. We're going to take this thing.
Anything else to say?
Yeah, we're going to take this thing to another level. I think you need to stick with it. It goes the marketing in me. I think you need to stick to the When Men Speak title and just turn it into part 2, part 3, part 4, and however far it needs to go, because this could be a thing that we create to where we add to this brotherhood and start inviting. We challenge each other each week to invite a man on, and then tell them to challenge them to invite another man on, and we can grow this thing to a true fraternity, I would say, or a true brotherhood, to where we really can create some noise around this When Men Speak, because the conversation has to start somewhere. And I think that the starting point tonight was incredible. We haven't even broke the surface, because it gets a little deeper here. We haven't went into fatherless sons and all that good stuff yet.
We'll get
So
there.
I got when you said that, Quan, I have a person already in mind that would be great for the next show.
Me too. I
he
got
has a,
somebody too.
he has a powerful testimony, and it'll be great. It'll add to the brotherhood, but also it'll add to the conversations that we're having.
Right. Great. Yeah, we should challenge each other to bring a guest on for the next one and continue the conversation and challenge them that same way. This could be huge. I think we're going to move some mountains with this one.
Oh yeah.
We create a safe space for men to express themselves, even if we're doing it on a public platform like this. Why not? It's who you are anyway.
Yeah. And you notice we all feel more encouraged and feel stronger, although we talked about on this call our weaknesses.
Most definitely.
Right.
Most definitely.
Right.
So that's where iron sharpens iron, and we can get stronger, and we don't have to feel like we're the only ones going through it. Nobody understands my struggle. I'm going about this on my own. No, we're in this together, and we can help each other together. So I appreciate the opportunity. I'm glad we're doing this, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. Likewise, I definitely appreciate this, brother James, on this legendary TV show that's growing so fast on this Friday night vibe. Let's be real. I'm loving it.
Watch out, Netflix.
Watch out, Hulu, Amazon Prime. Yes, sir. HBO Max. We coming
for you.
Better open up your wallet. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thank you guys, and I pray that you all have a wonderful weekend. And I'll see y'all in the group chat.
All right. Good deal.
All right.
Good night.
Yes, sir.
All right.